Nahsad has sewn this tote bag in advance to give us an idea of what we want to accomplish as we draft the patterns. You may choose different dimensions for your own tote bag. Once you become familiar with how to transfer your own ideas down on paper for the pattern. Our tote bag is shaped like a box, with some depth to it as well. It has a seam here joining the top and bottom sections, and seams on either side. There is no seam here at the bottom. Both sides of our tote bag are the same, so it is enough to draft the pattern for just one side of it. Our tote bag has square corners. We can use a right angle or triangle ruler to draft our pattern. We start by measuring the dimensions on the largest side. The width is about 46 centimeters. The height is about 38 centimeters. Place your right angle ruler here and draw a line along these two edges. We label this corner A. Measure 46 centimeters from this corner along this line and mark. Label it B. On this side, we measure down 38 centimeters for the height. Extend the line if needed. Label this point C. Now we need to draw these two edges. Place your right angle ruler like this. Draw a line here. Measure 38 centimeters down from B and mark. Label it D. Connect C to D. Now that we have drafted this section of the bag, we will draft half of the bottom side. The bottom side is 14 centimeters from here to here. Since we are drafting the pattern for half of the tote bag, we divide this number by 2. 14 centimeters divided by 2 is 7 centimeters. Measure down 7 centimeters from C. Extend the line if needed. Mark here. Label it E. Now measure down 7 centimeters from D. Label it F. Connect E to F. The side of the bag is 14 centimeters wide as well. Since we have a seam here, and we are drafting just half of the pattern, we need to add 7 centimeters to either side of our pattern. Extend this line. Make sure to align the ruler with the rest of the line. Measure 7 centimeters out from A and mark. Label it G. Now extend this line out from E. Measure 7 centimeters and mark. Label it H. Connect G to H. We do the same on this side. Measure 7 centimeters from B. Label this point I. Now down here from F. Extend the line if needed. Label it J. Connect I to J. Now we need to extend this line to cross these lines on either side. Label this point K and this one L. As we can see, the top of the tote bag has a fold here on the inside. We measure it. It is about 7 centimeters. We will add this to the top of our pattern. Extend this line and this line. Measure 7 centimeters up from G and mark. Label it M. The same amount on this side from I. Label it N. We connect M to N. Next, we need to add the seam allowances to our pattern. We need a seam allowance at the sides where we have these seams. We want the seam allowances for our pattern to be 1.5 centimeters or 15 millimeters. Extend this line if needed. Measure and mark 1.5 centimeters on it. Repeat on the bottom here. Connect the marks. Extend the line a bit along the top. Now we add the seam allowance on this side. Measure 1.5 centimeters here at the top and mark. Then here at the bottom. Connect the marks. We also need to add a seam allowance here for the top hem, where it is joined to the lining. This seam allowance will be 1.5 centimeters as well. Extend these lines here at the top. Now measure 1.5 centimeters here and here. Connect the marks. This will be our top hemline. We label it. This line, which is here at the bottom, will be placed on folded fabric. Because we don't have a seam line here in the middle of the bottom side of the bag. Draw a line parallel to the bottom line. Then connect the ends to it with straight lines. Draw arrows on either side to indicate the fold lines. We label the fold line. To draw the seam line connecting the top and bottom sections of our tote bag, we measure from the top edge. The seam line is about 25 centimeters down. On the pattern, we measure 25 centimeters down from the top hemline. We measure this along the outermost lines on either side. Extend the line if needed. Measure down 25 centimeters from the top hemline and mark. Now we do the same on this side. Connect the marks. Since we have a seam line here between these two sections, we will need to cut the seam line and add seam allowances for each side. We will do this after copying this pattern for the lining, since our lining doesn't need a seam line here. We label the seam line, then the top and bottom shell pattern pieces. Next, we will draft the lining pattern.